Hi, this is Andy Hoffman of CryptoGoldCentral.com, which publishes a daily cryptocurrency blog and provides professional crypto consulting to individuals and altcoin developers alike. Today's one-on-one episode, the 42nd, as I approach my one-year anniversary in business, features one of the most knowledgeable and well-known Bitcoiners, Kenn Bosak, who can be found at Kenneth Bosak and YouTube.com/Kenn Bosak with two N's. Kenn pulls no punches in his commentary, which is why I look forward to his appearances, as you do. We have much to discuss today, so welcome, Kenn, back to One-on-One.
How goes it? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And we were saying that 2 weeks ago we had some timing issues, so we couldn't meet as we had planned. And so much has changed in the 2 weeks, for the most part, for the better for the Bitcoin community. So let's start by talking about my view of the bear market in negative Bitcoin news, which in my view ended last year. First, when SegWit was locked in July, and second, over a period of several months, when the Bcash scam was exposed to the point that 11 months after its controversial and ultimately crypto market changing hard fork, there's not a person on the planet that any longer believes Bcash is anything more than a bad.
Um, Hi, everybody. I don't know what happened to Andy, but this is Kenn Bosak, and I'm sure he'll be right back.
You see, you hear me?
There he is.
Yeah. No, my camera goes on and off. Anyway, I was saying between the Bcash scam being exposed, forget even the word scam, the fact that people now realize that it's not a competitor of Bitcoin, and SegWit being locked in, and of course all these attempts by governments to slow it down, like the Chinese. And I look at it and I go, "There's no more Bitcoin FUD left from a news perspective." And then you have, of course, the falling precious metal sales to the point that they're at almost record levels of lows since the mint started opening, 20, 30 years ago, and the serial collapses of all these fiat currencies across the world. And again, I look at and I wonder, why would anyone think that there's going to be any problem with Bitcoin going forward? And then when we talk about what's going on financially, the fact is that this $100 billion market cap just continues to be supported very strongly, in my view, by institutions who are realizing that Bitcoin is a monetary asset class, the first of its kind since gold, and it isn't going anywhere. So, we're at the point now, in my view, that I just don't see where the threats are to the future of Bitcoin other than simply the pace of adoption. So, Kenn, tell me what your view is on the current state of the quote war on Bitcoin being waged by everyone from governments to central banks, Wall Street, Roger Ver, you name it. Has the battle of the bulge passed, or has the centralized, epically destructive fiat currency loving status quo thrown the kitchen sink at Bitcoin already and lost?
Oof, I don't know if the kitchen sink has been tossed quite yet. I feel like they still have something left in their arsenal. But yeah, I mean, there's not much left to throw, right? I mean, the FUD, it isn't working. Clearly, we have mainstream media telling people, it's going down. I think every other day they say there's a post coming out of the mainstream media, Bitcoin going down, and then they have to retract it 2 days later when it goes back up. So I mean, they're confused in their own right. They don't know exactly what to do. And when it comes to like the war on Bitcoin, from the government down to inner fighting, right, from Bitcoin to Bitcoin Cash fighting, it's still early. We're still at 1% adoption, if at the most. I feel like these battles could get stronger as we go. And I feel like the tribalism in crypto, I was talking to Bill Somerville at the DogeCon about crypto tribalism, and it is a different type of tribalism, man. It's funny because you have a lot of people that are like, we're in this because we hate fiat. We want, the central banks, blah, blah, blah. And then you have Bitcoin Cash versus Bitcoin, which is, an inner fight of its own. I lost you again, Andy. There you go. So, which is an inner fight of its own, which is ironic because you have the Bitcoin Cash people saying, "Oh, Bitcoin Cash is Bitcoin," and then they'll say, "Oh, Bitcoin going to the moon," but Bitcoin is a scam, which completely confuses the people that are on the sidelines looking at BTC Bitcoin. They're like, "But I thought that's a scam." No, BCH, that's the real one. So, I mean, we still are at an early point for FUD. I mean, the kitchen sink is still very well intact, waiting to be thrown. But from the government aspect, they're terrified. I mean, we literally can do whatever we want. This isn't just a permissionless currency. This is it doesn't ask for forgiveness either. There's no way to prevent what this has begun and has started to become. Bitcoin as a cryptocurrency versus fiat as a currency, that battle is being waged on the ground, not just in the media. And it's the people that are in the third world countries that are really starting to like pull through for us in the first world, like Venezuela. What's recently? Skipping on the name, but anyway, yeah. There's plenty of places like you mentioned where fiat currency is collapsing, and they're embracing cryptocurrencies. When something like that is going to happen, and it will happen here, first world wise, the people will be looking towards Bitcoin, BTC. Like you said, Bitcoin Cash has already proven itself to not be Bitcoin. I mean, if you're holding BCH, you're not holding Bitcoin, and people have started to realize that by not getting their dividends, they're not getting these forks, and they're like, well, if I was holding Bitcoin, BTC, I'd have all these other things I could have sold to get more BTC to get more of these other things. So I really do feel like the kitchen sink's still waiting to be tossed, and I'm really curious as to what that will look like when it does. I can't hear you. Can't hear you, Andy. Sorry. There we go. I think I hear something.
You can hear me?
Yeah, there we go.
That was really weird because usually I have a fix. See, my camera's going in and off like crazy. Okay. A couple of things. When we talk about the kitchen sink, it's a very ambiguous term. What do I exactly mean by that? Because yes, you certainly could have the U.S. government goes after it, but look, the U.S. government just pretty much conceded to me that they're not going to because they can't. When the SEC commissioner, I'm not sure who was the chairman himself, the guy who's from Goldman Sachs, of course. Mm-hmm. One of his commissioners basically said we're not going to regulate Ethereum. It's because, to me, they don't know how to regulate Ethereum. I mean, how are you going to do it? It trades around the world. It's not like this. It's a U.S. company that trades on the New York Stock Exchange. It trades everywhere. And whether its initial offering was a securities offering by definition, that doesn't matter. The fact is, even Ethereum, which is extremely centralized, is unstoppable as far as regulation-wise. And Bitcoin is in another league of unstoppability because it's completely decentralized. We already saw the Chinese government attack. They said they're shutting the exchanges. They really haven't shut the exchanges a year later. And I don't think they're going to, because if they do, they're only going to lose market share.
They're buying up the exchanges. Look at Goldman Sachs and Poloniex.
Yeah. I mean, if the China bans, whatever that means, tries to stop Bitcoin, the business will just go to Korea and Japan.
Well, look what happened with Binance in Japan. Japan kicked out Binance. Binance found a home in Malta 24 hours later, and they're doing better than ever.
Yeah. And again, I mean, Japan isn't going to do anything. The whole thing, AML. I love when they say,
well, AML. Yahoo, right? Didn't Yahoo say that they're going to be launching an exchange in Japan in the next couple months?
I don't even see that, but Yahoo better do something if they want to stay relevant. Again, the fact is that I don't even know, when we say the kitchen sink, I don't even know. I'm not worried about anything. To me, it's one of these things where the only way governments would really, really go after Bitcoin, whatever that means, is after it's gotten so big that there's nothing they could do about it. Like if let's say the price, just picking price, goes to 20, 30,000 again, everyone's talking about it. Okay, so then they start talking about we're going to regulate it because they're scared. But at that point, it doesn't even matter. And at this point, with the price down, they don't even know what to do with it. So I just don't see. I look around me, and you're talking about the tribalism, which is another interesting thing, because to me, and we'll talk about this in a second, I have a much softer view of altcoins than I ever have before. Not because I love them so much, just because I feel like this whole industry as a whole is just gaining momentum and strength. Even Bcash, I just don't care anymore. I know it's not a threat anymore. I like to troll them, and I think it's comical that they traded 11% of a Bitcoin since they don't do anything. But I just don't feel the fear and the hatred and the worries anymore.
I just get it when it comes to Bitcoin.com calling Bitcoin Cash Bitcoin and Bitcoin BTC Bitcoin Core, because that just completely confuses the adopters that are just coming into the space. So when they're reading, oh, BCH, that's Bitcoin, they download the Bitcoin.com wallet. They say, hey, Andy, here's my Bitcoin address, but it's really a BCH address. And they say, hey, Andy, I just sent you some PayPal money. Send me that Bitcoin you've been telling me to get. Here's my Bitcoin address. Now, you as a Bitcoiner would know that, hey, that's not a Bitcoin address if it looked any different, but BCH is a completely identical address as Bitcoin and it will accept it, right? So you can accidentally send Bitcoin to a BCH address. And we have Bitcoin.com calling BCH Bitcoin and BTC Bitcoin Core. That is where my whole argument stems from.
I agree 100% with you.
Well, weren't they in a class action lawsuit, but they basically moneyed their way out of that one?
Probably. But again, BCH, Bcash, as quote centralized as it is still a theoretically decentralized network that the governments couldn't do anything or lawyers couldn't do anything to, or even Roger Ver. To me, they still do all this stuff and it's comical. But the fact is, I don't worry about it anymore, and I'm sure you don't either. I don't wake up saying, "Oh no, Bcash has some like offensive they're going to spread of propaganda and stuff, and it's going to cause the price of Bitcoin to crash, let alone against Bcash." I think we've jumped that shark to the point where I don't have to worry about it anymore, and that's what I'm talking about here. Because if you're saying I think they're going to throw, I'm curious to see what gets thrown at it. I, as the most skeptical person in the world, I'm sitting there going, I just don't see it. I just don't see what's left. I do.
Oh, they're going to dox Satoshi. That's what's left, right? Or like, oh, we know who Satoshi is. Satoshi is X, Y, and Z. Like, that's the kitchen sink, really, right? I mean, that's like the Hail Mary is, oh, we know who Satoshi is, or
and
whatever.
What if they do? Tell me. I'm saying, what if?
Oh, I would love to see how they spin the story, but I feel like that's where they might have to go with it for it to have any effect, right? I mean, other than buying Bitcoin using printed fiat and dumping it for $1 on the exchange or something.
And you're already seeing attempts to try to, in the news, oh, we know who he is. And I'm thinking, first of all, well, who cares if you know who he is? This is just the way I look at it. I don't care. It's not like I expect him to sell his 1 million Bitcoins. And by the way, 1 million Bitcoin isn't even that much money.
Not now.
I mean, it's just not. And why he would come out and want to sell it, I don't know. But if he did, I have a feeling he would do it a lot more responsibly than the
he or she, right? And Satoshi, I would love to see the first move be dumping BCH and buying Bitcoin. That would just be.
Right. If he needs money so bad, he can sell his BCH. He could sell his Bitcoin Gold.
Exactly.
He could have Rocky Palumbo split his wallet, and he could probably get plenty of Bitcoin Lightning, all that stuff to pay his bills. But again, I just look at it and I go, well, first of all, I think the whole Satoshi thing has become mythical. I don't think we'll ever find out who he is, and I don't think it really matters. But either way, if that's the best that they can do is try to bring him out in some kind of negative light, then we're really running out of stuff, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's what I think. They're trying to demonize whoever, sprinkle some crack on them, as Dave Chappelle would say.
Right. Well, look, political battles notwithstanding, the principal test of Bitcoin's resiliency is its price, as until it's worth enough to stabilize its value and yield dramatic global monetary adoption growth, its principal use case will be speculation on whether or not it will usurp fiat currency and gold. And in gold's case, with a current market capitalization of $7 trillion for something that no longer does anything, it still dwarfs Bitcoin's tiny little $100 billion level. Now, given the near record low gold and silver sales, with, to me, the only remaining buyers being the, as I call it, anachronistic communist Chinese and Russian governments who are buying it with printed fiat currency, I believe gold monetary value is all but gone. And silver's is long dead. This is why I believe the staunch support at $100 billion on Bitcoin, no less at a time when the Mayer multiple, which is Bitcoin's spot price divided by its 200-day moving average, is near an all-time low, signals the bear market is indeed over. Throw in the fact that not only is the Mt. Gox trustee done selling Bitcoin, which, by the way, is also worth very, very little at current prices, but as of yesterday, EOS is done selling its ICO-funded Ethereum, and it seems to me we are rapidly approaching the end of the consolidation crypto has endured since its epic altcoin-fueled bubble of December and January. If indeed the bubble collapse consolidates in less than 6 months, it will be one of the most bullish events I can recall in my 30 years in financial market experience. That, and Ken, what's your view of the current state of the Bitcoin bear market and crypto in general? Is it over? And if not, what do you think must occur for the end to occur? Price, time, specific news developments?
I think it's always, for me, I feel like it always comes down to adoption. The more we see these mainstream industries embrace Bitcoin, the better. I think that's what I'm looking forward to. The bear market, though, are we even really in a bear market?
Like, well, compared to a year ago?
Right. But compared to 2-3 years ago, I feel like we're still in kind of like a weird bull run. Yeah, it's come down quite a bit, but not as much as people are expecting. Like, we've had a lot of people agree with the whole under $2,000 area. I don't think I'm ever going to see a $5,000 Bitcoin ever again. I could confidently say that. When it comes to the money coming in, we hit $20,000 with the cumbersome border to entry, where, you know, it in December, since December to now, it's only been 7 months, and, you know, the space has aged 7 years in its own right. The ramps of getting into, we have Abra, we have Robinhood, we have all these new things that have occurred for you to get your fiat into Bitcoin that weren't available before December when Bitcoin hit $20,000 each. Now we have so many more on ramps that are easier to use for the mainstream individuals, you know, the average person to get into Bitcoin, even using Abra or Robinhood or Coinbase or XYZ. Now we have more businesses accepting it. With rewards.com, I can book a hotel with Dash. With Cheap Air, I could buy a flight with Bitcoin. I mean, there's so many things embracing cryptocurrency from the traditional side. It's, to me, that's what speaks volumes.
You can do hotel reservations with Dash?
Yeah, rewards.com. Pretty cool. It's a little different. I talked to Mark a little bit about it. I haven't used it personally, but I do have some rewards tokens. Let me see. Yeah, this guy right here. I don't want to show you the other side because it's a private key. But yeah, they were at Consensus, and I spoke to them, and rewards partnered with Dash, and you could actually use that. McDonald's, Walmart, many other things like to use cryptocurrencies with. So rewards is cool. And like I said, like, those are the things I look for. The companies embracing and adopting cryptocurrency. And when I see something like that, I'm like, oh, well, yeah, more people are going to, why not? Why not this? Why not? Yeah, exactly. But I don't see it creating any more, you know, of a bear market when you see Goldman Sachs acquires Poloniex for $400 million. And I'm like, oh yeah, Bitcoin's totally dead. That's a done project, right? $400 million on, who spends $400 million on a dead project like a Poloniex exchange? Not Goldman Sachs. I mean, right. And then the DAO partnered with Basic Attention Token. So some of those partnerships are things I keep my eyes on. But to get this bear, like, what everyone is considered the bear market right now, 6,000. How do we get over this? I feel like we're just waiting for people to stop caring what the mainstream media thinks. Like, when I first got into crypto 3 years ago and some change, every other time Bitcoin was mentioned by the media or the mainstream media, like the news, people went crazy. It was like, oh my God, they said Bitcoin. And now it doesn't matter at all. And once people realize that it doesn't matter what they say or what they think, I feel like people start to think for themselves. And that's when they'll start to dip their toes in the crypto water. They'll put the $10 in, $20 in. They'll realize they don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin, that it's not a stock or a share of the Bitcoin company. People will start to do their own due diligence, look into things themselves. But I think they have to get over what they, like the mainstream media, what they perceive from the mainstream media. Oh, I have to, what does CNBC trader think? You know, who cares what any of these people think? What do you think? And when people start to think for themselves, I believe that they will inherently embrace cryptocurrency, but it's not until that point. And I think that we're getting there. We're, as the mainstream media keeps putting their own foot in their mouths. You know, it started with buy Ripple at $3.75 and sell Ripple at 50 cents. It started right there, and they lost all their credibility, and they have been losing credibility all along the line. There is more YouTubers with credibility than any mainstream media outlet has when they're talking about Bitcoin.
Unfortunately, there's a lot less of those YouTubers now. A lot of them because of the altcoins that they were talking about. And again, you know, the CNBCs have hurt themselves on the way up and the way down. The zero hedges, who are, to me, have become a mainstream outlet. Wall Street, you know, and Warren Buffett, et cetera, et cetera. But the fact is, I think you're right. I think less and less people are paying attention because the news stories are just more and more brain dead. And of course, look, Goldman Sachs, everyone likes to think of no one more than me because I spent my whole life watching what they did in the gold market. Goldman Sachs is out to make profit. They really don't care about whether it's in fiat currency or whether they run the government or not. They just want to be in the middle of the bull market. And if they are buying into altcoin exchanges, it's because they think altcoins are going up. And by the way, they do have influence more than most to make.
Well, wait till the people on the inside know when the ETFs are coming, start buying Bitcoin up by the bagfuls.
Yeah, there's never been, I've said before, there's never been a better insider trading opportunity ever. And the thing is, once it becomes mainstream and Goldman Sachs has a huge position in it, it'll still be unregulated and decentralized, and they can still legally inside trade, which is what they're best at doing. And, you know, you also mentioned, you know, the lifetime of development and change that's occurred since 20,000 Bitcoin. I mean, I can barely remember 20,000 Bitcoin. It was so long ago. In the double dog years of Bitcoin FUD and development and the Lightning Network and Bcash and the fiat currencies and all the things going on in the world. I mean, you couldn't buy. I mean, my job was helping people buy Bitcoin. You couldn't buy it at the top. Now it's so much easier. Heck, even the Trezor is now offering all these new altcoins. There's way more ways to efficiently buy and own cryptocurrency since December.
Yeah, and I think that the vibe around Bitcoin being illegal and it being drug money and Bitcoin being used for, like, you know, terror, that whole stigma has pretty much died down since the mainstream media. So that's like the one good thing that they did in talking about trading and investing in cryptocurrencies. They kind of steered away from calling it drug money and giving that vibe that the stigma is that Bitcoin's illegal, because they are talking about trading and investing in these Bitcoin exchanges. So that's like the one good thing I feel like the mainstream media did, but they also started it. So it's kind of a catch 52.
Well, they can't get out of their own way, but mostly they just don't know what to say anymore, because they've said everything. They've thrown out their kitchen sink to the point where they've lost credibility. It's like the other day I saw it said, crypto surge. This is zero edge. Crypto surge as fears of Binance shutdown fade. And I'm going, when was there a fear of a Binance shutdown? I mean, they just, and you know, Warren Buffett's rat poison and whatever the guy says, I'm going to
baby brains. Yeah, that was a good one.
It's getting to the point where no one is even listening anymore. So I think the things you're talking about are in fact occurring. Now, another topic I've spent a great deal of time discussing lately is altcoins, whose outlook, in my view, is actually evolving as bullishly as my outlook for precious metals is evolving bearishly, not in terms of news flow, as unlike Bitcoin, most altcoin related news has been negative this year, but conversely in terms of its price resilience as a group throughout this horrible crypto correction, both absolutely and relative to Bitcoin. I have always believed that so much capital will migrate into this sector that it will float all boats, or most boats, no matter whether their fundamentals are strong or not. However, it wasn't until I saw the altcoin dominance remain so strong that I've been convinced it isn't a .com-like fad. Now, many of the issues that have been touted, you think about it, these 51% attacks on B Gold, et cetera, they've been, I think, for the most part, corrected to the point where all we need is some volume and we're fine again. So in my view, the sector is showing that it has significant institutional and retail support. Because and look, if Bitcoin is destined to be the monetary dominant force that we believe it to be, why wouldn't there be a giant industry around it of cryptos? Whether some are going to be winners and many are going to be losers. So my question to you, Ken, is how is your view on altcoins evolved through this bear market? Do you hate them with a Bitcoin maximalist passion, which is still a reasonable base case, or has your view on their outlook softened in terms of price appreciation or use case potential?
Got me with the use case potential. Yeah, no, I used to be a Bitcoin maximalist until I got more down the rabbit hole. And I opened up my heart a little bit to the altcoins, more so recently. But yeah, I used to hate altcoins with a passion. I used to be like, oh yeah, even Ethereum. I was like, Ethereum this, Litecoin hate that, just buy Bitcoin, just Bitcoin this. But if you think about it, the network congestion that Bitcoin would go through to have to be and do everything that every altcoin wants to be used for, it may not be cost effective, at least right now or till who knows when it will be. So I do kind of embrace altcoins in a sense of taking the pressure off of Bitcoin's back until Bitcoin is ready to engulf whatever your favorite altcoin does and do it better. But there's a lot of altcoins I see that nobody would ever use Bitcoin for. A lot of these ERC20s, I am a fan of Kevin Pham, so I do have some fears of Ethereum and it's semi-centralized with Vitalik and the cost of gas with the cost effectiveness of using most of these ERC20s or even the ERC721 collectibles. But other altcoins that aren't just the ERC20s, they have their own blockchain or doing their own things. I really am a firm believer that there's enough room, like you said, for all the boats to float, or at least the ones that are worth floating, right? If you have holes in your ship, it's going to sink. And as we've gone by, we patched up a lot of the holes in a lot of the ships. So I think, like you said, we're ready for that volume. We're just waiting for it to roll in. And I think there's enough sitting on the sidelines doing the spectator thing right now. In an institutional level, that the individuals inside the institutions will probably have that volume flow first. And then I think the institutional floodgates will open. So when you see, the president, CEO, CFO, COO of all these institutions personally start to move their wealth into the industry, the cryptocurrency side, I think that's when you'll see their institutions do it, right? Why would they have their corporations invest in something before they are personally, so they could have their corporation buy something up to make their personal investments worth exponentially more? So that's where I'm looking. Yeah, but certain altcoins that have caught my attention recently are in the taboo sector. So I'm looking at a lot of like the gambling, the cannabis, the adult entertainment, some of those cryptocurrencies, because right now, until the mainstream media and the traditional sectors really embrace it, I feel like this is the first mover advantage, right? Like the MySpace of social media. If you're going to be an adult entertainment company or a gambling or cannabis company in the industry, to tokenize that is, that first mover advantage. It's undoable. You can't change that. That's a very winning factor. When everybody talks about what makes Bitcoin better than all these other coins, you talk about the legacy of it. It's legacy. It has history. It's the first. And I feel like that's what it's going to come down to with a lot of these altcoins. We're going to see 20, 30, 40 of the same exact concept coins, but the first mover advantages, the ones that have the developers, the ones that actually have progression on their blockchains, they're the ones that exist today. I feel like we're years away from seeing the whole Facebook, MySpace thing. We're still building the MySpaces of these industries in blockchain. 5-10 years from now, yeah, maybe there will be a flip. There'll be the Facebooks, but even MySpace still has hundreds of thousands, millions of users today. And I don't know. Yeah, dude, there's a lot of people that still use. I was very surprised. And I actually looked up an article not too long ago that said AOL still has enough people paying for email to be profitable.
Yeah, my brother, who's in his 40s, still has his AOL email. And look, the whole point of Bitcoin or in general cryptocurrency is it's a millennials and a Gen Z thing.
Right.
These people are gamers. They talk about how and gamers meaning everything computer related. Gaming itself uses more electricity than Bitcoin will ever use.
That's a good argument. We should make gaming illegal. It's bad for the environment.
Yeah, and Las Vegas, forget Las Vegas, all these things. There's gonna be plenty of use cases, but more importantly, there's gonna be plenty of money leaving these legacy systems. I call gold anachronistic. Well, so are stocks and bonds. I believe ICOs, decentralized funding, is the future of financing. And one of the first articles I wrote at CGC a year ago, it says it's called "Trillions Will Enter Crypto," perhaps half in Bitcoin. Half meaning half goes other places. All kinds of other places, cryptocurrencies, crypto service companies, all kinds of places. So I believe that there's going to be a lot of capital. Again, the reason we had that first, bubble move in December and January in altcoins is because when institutions invest, they will diversify. They're not all just going to buy Bitcoin. And so we saw the first taste of what happens when you get a wave of capital that comes into the sector. Now, over the long term, of course, you talk about which ships have holes. And when you're trying to A, compete with Bitcoin, and B, compete with everything else in the space as a startup company, a lot of the ships are going to have holes. Right now, most of them do, but they don't all. Look, if Dash is selling, if you can buy hotel rooms with Dash, there's obviously something there with Dash that has some kind of use case. I'm not going to compare it to Bitcoin or say it's going to be worth $50 billion. But the point is there will be winners over time. And for people to just blindly, again, you talked about you used to hate Ethereum. And I did too, mostly because it's not so much I thought that they threatened Bitcoin, but because I thought it hurt Bitcoin because so many people believed that they threatened it. But now everyone looks at Ethereum. If let's say you're a quote Bitcoin maximalist, which just from an investment standpoint, let's say you just own Bitcoin, as I do, you don't look at Ethereum and go, oh no, it's going up, it's going to hurt Bitcoin. You're like, okay, Ethereum's going up. I don't know if it's going to do well over time, if Cardano or EOS is going to surpass it. I really don't care, but it doesn't worry me as a competitor of Bitcoin or Bcash for that matter.
Right. No, you're right. And you were saying something earlier that made me think, I just wanted to bring it up, where it's a generational thing, like buying cryptos and Bitcoin. It's a millennial Generation X type thing. It's a tribal thing, right? Like the generations before mine, my father, my grandfather, they have a tribalism mentality when it comes to how to invest, right? Like back in my day, we bought stocks and bonds. Back in my day, we bought gold and silver. Well, in my day, nobody my age is buying any of that crap. Sorry. The only people buying gold and silver are the people who were buying gold and silvers. That's it. As you age out and die, nobody will be there to buy your bags of crap. As I get older,
we call it junk silver.
Junk silver. So as I get older and new generations come, they're going to be looking towards the newer things, right? Like you said, these are the newer things: Bitcoin, Ethereum, cryptocurrencies. That tribalism mentality and the generational thing, that is keeping an entire generation from seizing opportunity here, because they look at this and are like, stupid kids. Like, you were a stupid kid too, like, I don't think you don't get it when you're, I guess, I'm not that old. I'm not there yet.
And these have been empowered grown-ups. They've had governments printing money, supporting the stocks and bonds they own, whereas the generations now don't have anyone supporting their investments.
Right, exactly. And I think that's for the best right now. We don't need anybody supporting us. I like the whole flying out of the nest, falling on our faces, losing money in ICOs, losing our private keys, not knowing what the hell we're doing, and then getting a grasp of it. I feel like that to me was priceless. Whatever money I have lost in crypto, trying to figure crypto out, probably in the long term was a lot less than any college education would have costed me, and has already profited me a lot more than any college education would have gained me. So I'll take what I can get where I get it.
Yeah. And me being older, I had to go through the path of the college education and the multiple, careers to get to this point. But yeah, what I've accomplished, learned and accomplished in a few years in Bitcoin has been more valuable than anything I did in 15 years in precious metals. But again, what we're talking about here, probably the most important thing that people should get out of this call, and one of the most important things going on in general in the whole monetary world, is this concept of you can call it tribalization or generational change. But, you know, of course, the technology is making that change. But again, the people who own, again, gold and silver, no, believe me, no one knows more about the people who own gold and silver than me. I spent 16 years in that sector. I spent 6 years up to last year at a bullion dealer. My guess is the average gold and silver owner is probably at this point 65 years old. And you say the people who are buying are the people who were buying. No, they're not buying anymore. They already bought all they can buy, and they've watched it do nothing for years. In fact, a lot of them are selling it and starting to think about this cryptocurrency thing, which is going up while theirs is going down. To me, it's going to be shocking when you have $7 trillion of gold in the world, and then, you know, I don't know how much, $1 trillion of silver or less, that's going to be sold by these older people's children and grandchildren.
Yeah,
when they
that's a
inherit
good point. Wow, I didn't even think of that. As you were saying it, it was starting to click. I was like, I know what he's going to say. I know what he's going to say. They are going to. Yeah, of course, they're going to dump it.
And that, but again, $7 trillion of gold is nothing compared to $200 or $300 trillion of stocks, bonds, and fiat currencies. And like you said, I haven't even thought of it. I think of in terms of, I see stocks and bonds as just being abused and destructive. But younger people, you're talking about younger people wouldn't even dream of buying stocks and bonds simply because, like gold and silver, they are anachronistic. You don't want, they look at cryptocurrency as the future, and they look at the damage that stocks and bonds have done. And the same thing's going to happen. They're going to inherit stocks and bonds, and they're going to sell them and buy cryptocurrency over time. And then, of course, the last part is fiat currency confidence in general. But look, stocks and bonds, there's as much stocks and bonds out there as there are fiat currencies. We're talking about massive waves of capital that are going to be transferring as the older people start to buy less, and then, of course, will their assets to younger generations.
Yeah, stocks build their own borders to entry that keep them from going. You know, a lot of people come into this space from the stocks and bonds and all that, and they think, oh, I have to buy a whole Bitcoin, right? Because you have to buy a whole stock. And that keeps Facebook stock from going up, because people that can't afford a whole stock can't buy a fraction of the stock. And then all those people together buy whole stocks, right? And that causes the price to go up. If you could maybe let me get a tenth of a Facebook stock every other couple days.
Well, they can do stock splits, but Bitcoin is unlikely to ever do that.
Right. That is true.
So, well, but yeah, go.
I was gonna say, well, we do have those beautiful dividends.
Yeah, crypto dividends are real. And by the way, I'm not going to talk about B-Rhodium right now, but that thing is going to probably start launch in the next few weeks. And I think it's going to show people that crypto dividends can in fact be in vogue again. And I do believe that the day of the Bitcoin fork being viable is over, because people are starting to realize that simply cloning the code doesn't matter. But I do believe that by owning Bitcoin, you will be getting a whole new class of crypto dividends, starting with, like B-Rhodium, the airdrop, which you don't have to do anything. You don't have to split. You don't have to have Trezor. And there are going to be, per this conversation, there will be use cases developed for altcoins, which will in fact be crypto dividends of Bitcoin, which is why Bitcoin is still all that I own, and why, if you want to be conservative and not take risk, it's still by far the smartest investment strategy. Now, last thing here, because Ken has another podcast coming up, let's do a 2018 halftime report. Given that, in the spirit of the double dog years pace of cryptocurrency development, it's difficult to even remember when Bitcoin was $20,000 6 months ago, let alone 1,800 a year ago, when it was in free fall, plunging ahead of the potentially devastating Bcash fork. Since then, we've experienced one of the biggest bubbles in investment history, which, as discussed earlier, may well have ended already. Moreover, we've seen dramatic technological innovation in Bitcoin, and for all intents and purposes, the end of FUD of any real kind. Aside from the increasingly laughable TA forecast that all the price gains will vanish for no reason other than the witchcraft technical analysis that has embarrassingly underestimated Bitcoin's fundamental strength for as long as it's been followed. But I digress, as I really want to hear Ken's views of what Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general has accomplished in the first half of 2018, and subsequently what is anticipated to be the top Bitcoin and crypto-related stories of the second half. Ken.
Ooh. All right, let me put my future hat on. Actually, I guess I'll do the first half. I mean, wow, dude, in the past half a year, I mean, we've come pretty far from $20,000 Bitcoin and nothing, right? And then we've had SegWit, we have Lightning Network being developed, we have atomic swaps on the back burner being cooked up. There's a lot has been done. Even in
these custodial exchanges that are going to be announced, the decentralized exchanges, incredible.
Yeah, it is. There's been a lot of progression. We've talked about Goldman Sachs acquiring Poloniex. The DAO has partnered with Basic Attention Token. There has been a lot of progression in the past 6-7 months into the year. I feel like the real winner of the sentiment here is the education perspective, right? I mean, even mainstream media has begun to at least demonstrate some ground level of a basic education when they're talking about public keys, private keys, have a hardware wallet, software wallet. Some of these terms and all this stuff I've been starting to hear throughout the past 6 months never were ever spoken of. Really, they would just say, you just hear about what exchange can you use, and you have people like, oh, that. But then you have now it's like, what exchange do you keep it on cold storage when you're not trading it? Like it's common knowledge, and that's somewhat to do thanks to mainstream media and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that the basic education in the past 6 months, moving forward, I mean, the exchange hacks, I think CoinCheck was hacked for like $300 million worth of NEM. That was like a good wake up call. Recently, there was just an exchange that was just hacked recently, wasn't there? Binance just had an API hack.
The Japanese and the Korean exchanges, which were big ones. But again, these were very small coins that were hacked, not Bitcoin.
But the ripples or the lack of waves that had affected the market, it speaks volumes to people that are spectating it, right? Like, oh, this exchange, if an exchange was hacked 2 years ago or 3 years ago, it would screw the price up. You could trade based on that information. Today, you find out that an exchange was hacked and doesn't really do anything. The market's pretty stable.
Right. So I feel like that's what people are realizing, that when things get hacked, it's buyer beware. You have to be careful what you do. There's no way you should ever lose your Bitcoin. And if you lose all kinds of exchanges, it's because you did dangerous things, and that's on you.
But the next 6 months, looking forward to the bigger stories, what could come. I mean, we could see another bank purchase another exchange. The biggest rumor right now going around, which I'm afraid to see come to fruition, is Facebook will buy Coinbase. That would be weird. I really hope.
Why? You think that's good or bad?
I think that would be bad. I don't think Facebook or Zuckerberg's the man we want behind Coinbase, the exchange that basically has the monopoly on the U.S. With the amount of influence Facebook has, I feel like it would be not just controversial. It would almost have to be like somewhere illegal for them to be able to influence people via social media and have simply, Coinbase flood walls of, ads, click here to buy Bitcoin or all that stuff.
Facebook is, though, I mean, they're in it for profit too, like Goldman Sachs. To me, if Facebook bought Coinbase, that would be almost the equivalent. It would be the equivalent of Amazon.com accepting Bitcoin. I mean, I
just don't want the monopoly, though. It might be too much of a good thing's a bad thing, right? Like, maybe. I feel like if Facebook bought Coinbase, some people, me myself, would definitely stop using Coinbase, especially because. Well, yeah, I mean, besides my Shift Payments card, like that's the only way I'll ever get, to use Coinbase anymore. Sometimes desperate measures. The Coinbase Visa card's pretty good, but other than that, no, I don't, because I don't really trust them. If you accidentally send your Bitcoin from Coinbase to a cold storage hardware wallet and you don't really feel like dealing with all that, and now Coinbase is going to out you, right? Like, hey, that might be his wallet over here. He's been sending a lot of crypto there, or whatever. You accidentally send Bitcoin or crypto from one wallet to your Coinbase wallet. Now you're in all kinds of taxable event. I don't need any of that. Coinbase.
But the education level will go exponential if a mainstream company like that.
I would love for Facebook to start their own their own cryptocurrency exchange. That would be great. But I don't want them to be buying up. I would like to see more options, less monopolies. I don't want to see things bottlenecked, right? And that would be basically what would happen. Everybody would go back to Coinbase and be like, can we go to like local Bitcoin ATMs, peer-to-peer? Do you want to just like call me and I'll like send you some Bitcoin? You can PayPal me. I would love for it to go to that end. But besides Facebook buying Coinbase, we'll probably start seeing, the people like Jamie Dimon already taking back what they've said. We'll probably see, Bill Gates say, all right, maybe I was wrong. It's probably not baby brains. We're going to be using, Microsoft embraces blockchain and Bitcoin somehow. Like that would be the killer media story right there. Bill Gates, Microsoft embraces Bitcoin and blockchain technology. Crypto is not baby brains. Yeah, well, that would be the story I want to see.
Their comments and investments, of course, will follow the price. The price goes up, all of a sudden they become much more positive about it, and they spend much more money investing in it. So I would think those are more of a lagging indicator. Honestly, though, I believe that if Coinbase announced they were buying Facebook, it would be like
or other way around. Facebook was buying.
Right. Coinbase.
Oh my God, dude, that would then Bitcoin's really worth something.
Yeah. Well, Bitcoin would already be worth six figures if that happened. But I'm saying if Facebook bought Coinbase, I think you'd see $20,000 Bitcoin within a month. It would be such a big event, just like.
But it would potentially have that decline, right? So the people jumping in so fast all at once. It's that's what I would worry about. All these people on Facebook that don't have a clue what they're doing, throwing money in and then pulling it right back out when it goes down just a little bit or something.
But for the most part, the world is watching what the mainstream does, and when the mainstream does things that big, they follow. And again, we know that the average person is not going to learn things very quickly, but they are going to pay attention to stuff like that. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen. And if you ask me what my second half view is, I wouldn't dream of saying that's going to happen. At least not until the price is much higher, because that's what institutions do. They buy high and they sell low.
I was going to say, you think they'd wait and buy now, right?
Yeah, but I mean, look, who knows what's going to happen? I just think, I've said from the beginning of this year, when you look back at 2017 and what the game changers were, it was obviously Segwit. And in the beginning of the year, no one could have imagined it would have happened because of the contention. This year, in the beginning of the year, I said, I believe that by the end of the year, the Bitcoin network will be much faster and cheaper than it started the year. That's generic. And the way things are going, it looks like that's going to be correct. But everything else, I don't know how fast the pace will be. I believe the bear market ended, that this $100 billion market cap has proved support. And it's just a matter of time before the world starts to realize that, because once institutions start to convince themselves, yeah, look, this is a new asset class. That's why it's $100 billion is the bottom. Then you're going to see a lot of changes. And when the price starts moving up, then you start to see Facebook do stuff and Bill Gates make positive comments and governments start to get down on their knees. So we'll see what happens. But these were amazing commentaries you gave today as you get ready for your next podcast. Thanks again for being here. Everyone needs to follow Kenn at Kenneth Bosak, and also on YouTube. His YouTube channel is YouTube/Kenn with 2 N's, Bosak. And as for me, please check out my daily blog at cryptogoldcentral.com, on Twitter at Andy_Hoffman_CG, or contact me related to cryptocurrency consultations at ahoffman@cryptogoldcentral.com. So again, everybody, thanks and have a great crypto day.
Have a day.